are the domains European Union is offering support in Moldova, and what are the concrete results so far?
Well, there is an enormous amount of different domains, even if, of course, our aid principles would say that we need to be with 3-4 priorities. But when you have 3-4 priorities, one period after another, and ongoing programs, so you really do get very far. But let me just take a few fields. First of all, I'd look at economic development, bringing jobs, new opportunities to the Moldovan population. That's, after all, what the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement is all about, opening the largest market, the richest market in the world for Moldovan businesses. But that means a lot of adjustment. It means a lot of new standards to be taken up. You, as Romanians, will know what coming closer to the European Union requires, and it's a lot of work. So let me look at a few things we've done in that field. First of all, we've had for a longer time something which we've called the Economic Stimulation of Rural Areas project, ESRA, which has come now to an end. But just through this project, we've created over 2,000 new jobs, 750 of them, by the way, female jobs, so there's a very strong gender part. We've opened business incubators. We've looked at assistance projects to SMEs. We've been really impressed with the SME development in the country, even if there's by far not enough of that. But those SMEs which have come and worked with like programs such as PARE 1+1, where people put half of the investment themselves and through the program get an equal amount of money, hence cover the whole investment. Those have been, so you see that companies and entrepreneurs have really gone forward. Now we're looking at the DCFTA facility for SMEs, and this on the whole will be approximately 2 billion euros, but this is lending money, and this will provide access to technical knowledge for small businesses to understand what they really need to do to combine with DCFTA provisions, as well as access to finance for businesses to invest and upgrade production standards. You know that in the period which we're starting, we have signed and to be ratified by the Moldovan Parliament a project called NPARD, which is basically a support project for agricultural entrepreneurs. Now, since much of it is in budget support, we're still looking for an IMF agreement and the guarantees to macrofinancial stability in order to start payments. You know that our budget support operations are, due to force of circumstances, on hold, but this is one way where we will be going. The European Investment Bank has been working which is our bank, has been working in the wine sector with the Filia de Van project, and they're starting a Moldovan fruit garden project. So and also under our DCFTA support, we're looking at opening new business incubators all around the country. I could continue with a number of different areas, but that just gives you an idea on the economic side. Let's look at another key issue, energy. Energy security is a key issue, climate change is a key issue, and environmental sustainability is a key issue. We've done two things, I think, with energy, which are really, really important. We have worked a lot on energy effectiveness. We have worked also on something which we're very proud of, which is called the biomass project, where 250 households and 50 companies have already benefited from subsidies installing heaters in biomass. And in the first phase of the project, we were talking about 620 households. So I mean, you look at a rather large number. You look at schools which have biomass heating, and this is also very good in that it creates jobs, because the fuel used by biomass is locally produced, and this production brings jobs. It also brings energy security. A much more key energy security issue has been the Iași-Ungheni pipeline, which was opened a year ago. Now we're looking forward to having that pipeline extended all the way to Chișinău and provide an alternative gas source. We're also looking at education, sort of on the sidelines, towards kids, and in terms of camps, others, in sustainable energy methods. And one of the things which I've been pushing, and unfortunately I've been pushing for over 2 years, would be a new law on renewable energy sources here. And unfortunately here we haven't quite seen the process there. Now going further, we're also looking at vocational education training, because if you look at a former Soviet society, which this is very much still, you have a lot of universities, not all of them very good quality, but you also have a structure of the labor market which doesn't necessarily need university education as much. But so we're trying to get modern vocational education here to make this field attractive, and looking at everything from technology to textiles to arts, crafts, so on. And here we're going forward. Justice sector, we have been investing a lot there. I would really hope that we would have been able to get a bit more results, but here we've seen a lack of political will within the justice system to change, but the support is there, and that has been very important. Now, infrastructure. We have worked a lot on road rehabilitation, and together the International Building Community, and that means the Americans and us, we have together renovated about 800-900 kilometers of road inside Moldova. So if you drive around the country, you will see that roads are in fact becoming very good. Now, we are also trying to provide very high-level advice to the government. And if you look at something which has been really a great success, the EU high-level policy advisory mission, this is being somewhat changed, it's being expanded, and we will have up to 25 EU high-level advisors starting next year, working in various fields. Of course, also including in the very important banking sector, because of course you've all heard about the large banking sector fraud in the country. We are trying to help also through a twinning where the Romanian National Bank and the Dutch National Bank are together. We have a high-level advisor to the Prime Minister on the banking sector. We are trying to help find solutions where banking supervision will be done according to European standards. So you see there's an enormous amount of different projects. Now, if I look at another thing which I think is one of the issues we will together be talking about later today, it's the confidence building program. And this is one which is very close to my heart, because confidence building is also nation building to a large extent, to put bridges and common interests between the Transnistrian region and the rest of the Republic of Moldova, and try to find a basis for people to work closer together and find what unites them rather than what divides them. And this is one where we are now going, we've had a very good beginning. The new phase, CBM4, is even more ambitious in terms of its objectives, and there will be a lot of financial resources available.
The relation between Moldova and Transnistria is very sensitive at a political level.
Yes.
Of course, European Union is not involved in any way in the political matters. EU is offering support in terms of support to confidence building, but for development only. There are visible projects in this program, like infrastructure, the construction of schools, kindergarten, but also projects that are not so visible, like conferences or putting together people in order to create bridges.
Yes.
Between them. How can you evaluate the results of such projects? How can you measure their efficiency?
I think it's been important that the projects have been there, and it's been important also on the infrastructure side and others. I mean, look, I would have perhaps hoped to see projects, more joint projects, where municipalities from both sides of the river would have worked together. I do see that we have had more sort of separate projects, but that brings also a sense of commonality, and then with conferences, meetings, you exchange experience. So I think that this is very important. Could we have seen more? I suppose yes, but I think in any settlement process, in any process of trying to bring people together, the speed will be very much determined by the, let's say, readiness of both sides to engage with each other. And we have to realize that there's been a virtual separation for 23 years, and I think that our projects have brought an understanding of people about the commonality. What I would challenge a little bit is that when you said that we're not involved in the political side, the European Union is, after all, a key partner in the 5+2 settlement process. So, of course, one of the messages which I have, and we have had, to both sides, is that when you find something which needs to be implemented, something in common, use our confidence-building projects to underpin that, to build something together. There is the program we're here with now, which is implemented by the UNDP as our implementing partner. That, of course, is an important part, but we do have financial resources also to give expertise to the confidence-building working groups, bring in experts, try to find solutions. We have the EU Border Assistance Mission, which tries to find technical solutions also between the sides when the political will is there. So, yes, there is in fact a quite strong political link.
How is the European Union perceived among the population in Moldova?
Well,
from your experience so far?
I'd say that on the whole, the European Union and the whole European value system has overarching support in the country. But if you look at this moment at statistics and opinion polls, you would come with a very different view. There has been a large amount of disappointment, I would say, in governance in this country, and as governments have been ostensibly pro-European, the EU's image has been linked very much to the image of the government. But then when you go and talk to people, whether they are Romanian-speaking, Russian-speaking, others, everybody wants a better life. Everybody wants real accountability, real economic development, real rule of law, and that's what the EU is about. So you see this sort of slight dilemma in that in opinion polls, the EU is not that closely supported because of the disillusionment in population. But at the same time, when you go and talk to individual people, regardless of language, regardless of location, and so on, and you see that there is a very strong belief in what we stand for.
We see it also because we were in the country.
Yeah.
What do you consider that are the chances for Moldova to become an EU member state, and when would this be possible?
I think that I'll give a slightly opaque answer, first and foremost, because our relationship at this moment is not aiming at membership. Our relationship is based on political association and economic integration. I would say that perhaps my answer would be that coming closer to the European Union is very much linked to maybe thinking less about the European Union and thinking more about the Republic of Moldova and thinking more about the domestic reforms. And this is what we are trying to help in our programming and assistance programming as well, and really working for your own citizens. Because then when a country starts really taking on those EU standards, starts building institutions which are about which the European way of life is about, then rather than having a big discussion on are we coming closer to the EU or not, things become much more automatic, because when you come closer to European standards, you in fact become closer. And then that's the moment when also populations can take real decisions, informed decisions, and the EU can maybe be a little bit more open collectively as a whole. I'd like to underline also in this context all what we're doing in terms of assistance, because our assistance is still the largest per capita in the neighborhood, if you don't think of accession countries where we do sometimes see bigger per capita sums. Of course, now there's been a lot of feeling that the European Union, or a narrative out there, that the European Union has cut funding to the Republic of Moldova. That's in fact not true. We have put, pending an IMF agreement, budget support operations on hold. Other forms of assistance are growing. We are looking at our programming priorities for the next years. We're trying to see, would it be possible to use more project-based assistance delivery rather than budget support, where we still manage to deliver to the population but without going through the Moldovan state budget and so on. So the assistance is there, but the answer to your question on coming closer to the EU is that we cannot give that answer. Only Moldova can give that answer. And I think it is very much linked to the fact that there needs to be a realization that we can support, we can help, we can give assistance, this large amount of assistance we're putting into the country, but we can't do the reforms for the country itself. And that's where you need domestic political will and domestic ownership.
Talking to the people in the country, they told us that with the EU funding, they didn't have the possibility to make a project from the beginning till the end. For example, they were complaining that they had funding for some kindergartens and they only made the roof with the funding, not the whole kindergarten. In fact, they wanted more money. What do you consider that can be improved in these projects?
Well, if you, for instance, look at energy efficiency, of course, I understand that there is a big need for kindergartens, other objects, to go through a full renovation, and I think that this is the dramatic issue we're seeing, that many of the kindergarten schools so on in the country are from the Soviet period. They are already over 30 years old, 40 years old, and have not been renovated. And then when you suddenly start renovating after nothing having been done for a quarter of a century, of course then the amount of work which needs to be done is enormous, and it becomes very, very complex. At the same time, for instance, energy efficiency, that money goes for heating systems and that money goes for insulation of the buildings, but it cannot go for new floors and things like that. So I think that we need to look, of course, is there something which we can do differently? That's one thing. But also it's important that there is more domestic resource allocation. And if you look at the budgetary process, more ownership, more regular upkeep, this is, in a way, one of the things where I see that there is an expectation coming from the past that the relationship with the European Union is somebody coming from Brussels, like somebody may have come from Moscow earlier, and taking care of all. No, it is that we support certain parts, but then domestically other things need to happen. If you look at villages, one of the things which I often like to underline, we've talked about decentralization. If you give more sort of say on resources to the municipalities, you're already on a much more sustainable track and on a much more locally accountable track. But then another thing comes. The Republic of Moldova, with a population of probably less than 3 million, in a small country which you can basically drive in a few hours in both ways, has around 900 mayor offices. This is not sustainable. And we've looked at it economically, that it means that most of the mayor offices cannot pay for any service delivery. They need to, they can only pay for salaries which are very low of those working for the mayor office. Now, you would need to really put communities together, put more common, and this is what you need to optimize healthcare, you need to optimize schooling, not, and when you start telling people that certain schools need to be closed or or the majority of mayoralties need to be merged with other mayoralties, people get scared. But in fact, that is the only way to really deliver better, higher quality services and also have the financial resources to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.